Hi, good evening. So I have joined for the 10 weeks of Yuktahaar project as always on Thursdays, and today's topic is about plateau. So how do you break a plateau? That is today's topic. If you have been somebody who has been exercising or following a certain diet, then you would be knowing what a plateau is. It's something which is very stressful for a person. It can be very demotivating. It is something which is very discouraging. So for people who may not know, I'll just go ahead and explain what a plateau is, and then I'll go ahead and discussing more about it ki plateau hota kya hai, and how we can break it and all that stuff. Okay, so first thing is that if you are putting efforts but you feel that there is no result, there's nothing that you can see out of those efforts that you're putting as far as your fitness journey is concerned, then it is said that you have hit a plateau. So this is what a plateau is. So for example, you get on a diet or you start exercising and you lose a certain amount of weight initially, but then the weight loss stops. You no longer are losing weight. So you feel that all my efforts are in vain, there is no benefit that I'm getting out of so many things that I'm doing. Then that situation is called a plateau. It can be also in terms of other things. For example, it's just not about weight loss. For example, if a person is aiming to gain some muscle mass, and initially the person does gain some muscle mass, he sees a nice progress there, but then eventually it stagnates. So that also is a plateau. Or example, in terms of endurance, like in terms of muscular endurance or basic cardiovascular endurance, which we know as stamina in simple words, or in terms of increasing muscle strength. So depending on whatever your fitness goal is, initially you see improvements, you see progress, but then later on you see that it's become stagnant, there is no further improvement, and depending on whatever your aim is, it is set to hit a plateau. It is said that you have hit a plateau, right? So this is what a plateau is by definition. Now how do you break it? Now basically what happens is, when people feel that they have hit a plateau, they are very discouraged. It's mentally very stressful situation for them, and often it is things that are said on social media is that you need to shock the body. So shock the body, I don't know what they really mean by shocking the body. It's really very subjective thing, what do you mean by shocking the body, but lots of theories are there that you shock the body. You even go on a further low calorie deficit, you try some really outrageous exercise. So you do all of these things to break the plateau, but then also the plateau doesn't break, right? Let me tell you that. Okay, so a plateau is a situation which comes in your fitness journey, as I explained. And like any other situation in life, there are always two things. One is a situation may be constant, which means that no matter how much effort you put, the situation is not going to change as per your benefit or in your favor or as per your desire. So then we say that it's a constant situation, meaning that no matter how much you try, it's not changing. The other situations can be variable. So if you really think about it, all situations in life would either be constant or variable. So a variable situation is where you put the right efforts in the right direction, in the right intensity, and things start happening as per your aim, as per your desire. So that is what is meant by when I say that there are two situations. One is a constant situation, the other is a variable situation. So let me give you an example. Suppose there's a child who's able to study well, like on his own voluntarily. The child studies for 2 hours in a day. Now the mother thinks that, okay, let me coax the child a little, let me push the child a little, let me motivate the child a little, let me pamper him into studying 4 hours a day. So the mother does that, and the child does end up studying 4 hours a day. And the mother thinks, yeah, it's a great win, so let me now push further कि thinking कि 2 का 4 घंटा हो गया, so if I push a little further, ये 4 hours will become 8 hours, 8 hours will become 16 hours, and 16 hours will become a complete day. Right? So if the mother starts thinking in this fashion that let me coax the child a little more, and in the same proportion it's the number of hours of study is going to keep on doubling each time, do you think this is going to happen? This is not going to happen. The child did progress from 2 hours to 4 hours initially, but if you go on pushing, because we live in a culture of hustle nowadays, we call it the hustle in the social media language, where everybody is hustling. So we think that, okay, let me push more, but then the child is not going to endlessly progress. The child is not going to endlessly improve. So now if the mother feels very bad thinking that, oh my God, my child has hit a plateau, then who is to be blamed? The mother or the child? Right? So in the same fashion, we need to think of situations as a constant situation or a variable situation. Initially, when the child was studying 2 hours a day, it was a situation that could be changed by some motivation, some push, and it did change, and the child did progress to 4 hours a day. But later on, it did become a constant situation where if you go on thinking that, okay, my child is still going to improve further and further and further, it simply means that you need a change of your attitude, your own perception. The child is really not at fault here. Therefore, in our culture, there is a prayer which we call as the serenity prayer. It is always, the word is different, but it's the same thought has been conveyed in Bhagavad Gita also, where they say that God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to have the courage to change the things that I can. And the third, which is the most important and the most beautiful, is to have the wisdom to know the difference between the two. So the third one, as I said, is the most important, because in the end you need to have the wisdom to know the difference between what you can change and what you cannot change. At the end of this video, I do not want that people think that, oh, I have reached a constant situation in my life and nothing can be done, so I am fine. I don't want you to do that either. I want you to have an honest introspection about your fitness journey and understand where you are exactly. Since we are doing a live on a public platform and it's not a one-on-one consultation, I'm not aware of where exactly you are, and therefore it's an assessment which you would need to do by yourself. For example, a lot of people, a lot of readers who read my book in this past 1 year, if you even go to the review section which are there on our Instagram or on the Amazon page, you will see that at least 80% of them have written that I was on a plateau for so and so years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and I followed this 10-week plan, and within 2 weeks I lost weight. My plateau was like completely destroyed and shattered. Right? So if you are somebody who has not been on the right path, who has not been guided well, a lot of people wrote to me today saying that I have been on a calorie deficit for so many years, I am strength training, but I am on a plateau for the last 2 years, means there is no improvement in weight loss. So if you are following those kind of theories which are completely outdated, which are completely flawed, then you should go and read this book, Yuktahaar, the belly and brain diet, and follow the 10-week plan. So if you're new to me, as in to my page, if you're new to this book, then this definitely can help you break the plateau. And why do I say that? Of course, the reviews and the readers' testimonials are proof to that. But why do I say that? It's simply because when you follow this plan, you're doing many things to break the plateau. You are doing many things that removes inflammation from the body. You're doing many things that revs up the metabolism. So these things are things which your body has not been subjected to. A simple detox 2-week plan, it's something that a body needs. If you live in an urban city, if you are facing modern urban stresses on a daily life, on a daily basis, then this is something that you need. And since you have not given this to your body for so many years, and now when you follow this book, either you follow the Kunjar Kriya, or you follow the Ayurvedic herbs which are there, or you simply start having a light dinner which is carbs, which is full of carbs. So there's khichdi or kanji or porridge. So you're not having soya bean and paneer and chicken for dinner, no grilled stuff for dinner, but you're eating good real food. You start making your breakfast lighter, so you don't start your day with eggs and breads and puris and whatnot, but you start your day either with a smoothie and a light porridge there. You start making lunch or the most wholesome meal. So there are many things in the book which will help you break the plateau, and that is the reason I say that firstly reassess. Have you been really putting on efforts trying to lose weight in the right way? Whenever you go on a calorie deficit, the body will initially always lose weight. That was always going to happen. And then once the body has lost a certain amount of weight, most of the time the weight does come back again. And most of the time the weight that comes back, couple of kilos more. So this is going to happen if you're on a calorie restrictive diet. On the other hand, Yuktahaar, this 10-week diet, is more about eating in a way that supports your metabolism, that removes all the toxins, that removes all the inflammation from the body, makes you feel lighter, energetic, healthier, fitter. So you definitely see a change in your journey wherever you are. Like basically your starting point can be anything, but from that starting point, when you start following the book, you start following the 10-week plan, you immediately feel that there is a change in your journey and you feel that the plateau has really broken, right? But what about the people who are already following the book? So this is basically for the participants of this year, of this project, and also maybe like others from the last year. So a lot of people write in the feedback form that I did phase 1, I lost 4 kgs and I'm very happy. So then the next feedback form comes, they say, yay, I'm in phase 2 and I lost 2 kgs and I'm very happy. And now they are in phase 3, which is a lifelong phase, and then they're constantly unhappy because they no longer lose weight. I'm not saying this is going to happen with everybody. Maybe you continue to lose weight in phase 3 as well. Okay, so I'm just giving an example. It's not that everybody is going to lose 4 kgs in phase 1 and everybody is going to lose 2 kgs in phase 2 and everybody is not going to lose weight in phase 3. Everybody has its own journey in this 10 weeks of Yuktahaar also. But I'm just giving an example. So a lot of people did write that I've lost certain amount in phase 1, certain amount in phase 2. So I'm already 6 kgs, 7 kgs down, but ye dil mange more. So that is where you need to understand that weight loss or when you are on a journey for a longer term, like when you are on long-term behavioral changes, when you're focusing on habits on a longer on a longer term, then most of the time your life is going to be spent in a plateau. Plateaus are inevitable after a certain amount of effort. You can only lose that much amount of weight. You can only gain so much muscle. You can only increase your strength so much, right? Like the child I spoke about in the example, if you keep remorsing that the child has not ended up studying for 24 hours a day because I am going on putting effort as the mother, you will always be disappointed. But you need to understand that there is a limit. There is a limit to things. You cannot go on losing weight forever. If you have lost 6 to 7 kgs already and now you're not losing weight any further, then it simply means that this is the ideal weight for you. This is the weight at which your body is most comfortable. This is the weight at which your body is not going to catch a flu, even when 50% of the country is having a flu outbreak. Right? So your immunity will be great, you are going to look great, you're going to have a great skin, you are not going to fall ill very frequently. So this is the weight where you're not going to constantly feel hungry also. Because if you just go on endlessly, then think that why I'm not losing weight, and start taking root of unhealthy ways of losing weight, you're not going to lose weight, but what is going to happen is definitely you will become ill, unhealthy, not look great, feel sick, look sick. So therefore we need to understand that there's only that much of weight loss that can happen, and this change in attitude needs to be understood. that okay, there was a situation when I could put some effort and I could, have a different trajectory to my health journey. But now, since this is constant and I've already done everything, and I'm on a good long-term plan where I'm exercising 30 minutes a day, where I'm sleeping on time, where I'm eating good food, healthy food, where I'm not eating ultra-processed food at least 5 days in a week, 2 days a week is fine. When you're on this long-term, lifelong behavioral change or habits, then after a certain point your weight is going to plateau. Otherwise, I mean, nobody is invisible, right? सब तो फिर गायब हो जाएंगे ना, weight loss होते रहेगा, but it doesn't work like this, right? I'll just give another example. There's this actor, without mentioning the name, who had put up a post on Instagram of doing chakrasan, which is a yoga asan, 5 years back. So it was a collage, so 5 years back and then 5 years after the same asan. So, on one side was chakrasan 5 years before, and on the other picture was chakrasan today, which is 5 years later. And when she compared, or even with her teacher, she assessed there is hardly any change in those 5 years in the chakrasan that she has done. So now there's always a way in which you can look at things. In 5 years, her body has definitely aged. In an adult life, you are aging every year. After 30, you are aging every year. Your bone density is getting lower. Your muscle mass is shrinking. That's a normal process of aging that happens to everybody. But if she's been able to even hold the posture the same way for the same length of time in the same way, then it's a thing to celebrate, because her body hasn't gone through the natural process of aging even after those 5 years. And that has happened only because she is maintaining her workouts, she's maintaining a healthy lifestyle for the 5 years, for the good 5 years, being sensible. And therefore, although we see no improvements as such, the body is really doing great, because the body hasn't gone down in terms of strength, in terms of endurance, in terms of any other thing, right? But if you go into the plateau mode and start thinking, oh my god, I've plateaued, there's nothing has happened in 5 years, so I definitely need to do something outrageous, like people say that shock the body, shock the body. You don't need to shock the body. I think you just need to change your perception. There is anyways too much of external shock that we give to our body these days. There's pollution, there's exposure to so many chemicals in the way of cosmetics, in the way of detergents, clothes, everything. The lifestyle itself is quite stressful these days in a lot of aspects. So I think we are giving a lot of shock to the body without even trying to. So we shouldn't really think of our body in that way. A change of perception, as I said, is what is required. So to summarize, firstly, try to assess if you have been doing the right things as far as your goal is concerned. It could be weight loss, it could be muscle gain, it could be strength gain, it could be any of these things, right? So first, reassess that if you are doing the right things which is required for your goals. If you think you are doing the right things, okay, now somebody is asking where to start, how to start. Isha Lokre is asking. So as I said, please read this book, Yuktahaar, the Belly and Brain Diet. Follow the 10-week diet which is there in the book. A lot of things are there in the book which will help you to break the plateau if you haven't followed this book before, and if you have not been following the principles of this book. So this definitely is going to help you start. It is definitely going to help you break the plateau. So first, think if you're doing the right things and you're not falling into the no carb game or low calorie game or calorie restriction game or carb restriction game, right? And then for especially the people who are following the Yuktahaar principles already, and they have already done the phase 1, phase 2, then it's time to celebrate, because you have already done a major part of the program. And then you need to understand that this is the weight, this is the body size which is probably the most comfortable for you. It may not match the body size of the celebrity that you envy on the magazine cover, or it may not match the body of your cousin or your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. That's a completely different matter. We cannot compare. Going back to the child example, if the mother is constantly comparing the child, ki see falana child studies for 6 hours, you only are able to study for 4 hours, even after I have pushed you so much, then it's really the mother's fault, because each person has its own journey, has its own potential, has its own capacity. So be very sensible, think of the serenity prayer, think of the things that you can change, and the things that you can change, you must change. But there are always times in life when you reach a situation where constantly having a desire which is unrealistic and impractical and not healthy for you, and constantly cribbing, maybe the right word, that always cribbing that I am not able to reach that, is certainly not wise. Then you need to understand and have the serenity to accept those things as it is, and as I said, the wisdom to know the difference between the two, right? So a lot of honest introspection is required to know where you stand, and therefore you act accordingly. I'll take one question which is here. Somebody is writing, I goofed up few things, so can I go to second phase? So today also somebody asked this question to me on Instagram. So if you go to the FAQs in chapter 10, it's clearly written that if you do happen to eat something from the forget list in phase 1, so suppose you're doing phase 1 and you happen to eat something from the forget list, then do you need to redo phase 1? You don't need to redo phase 1. You can just forget that episode and you can just continue with whatever days are remaining in phase 1. So if you have finished phase 1, you can step on to phase 2. If again the same thing, if you have eaten something in phase 2 which is from the phase 2 forget list, you can just forget that episode and just move on as if nothing has happened, right? So if you look at it, most of the FAQs at the end of each chapter have most of the answers to these questions that is being asked. But nevertheless, I'm happy to answer. Again, there's a question, is peanut allowed in first phase? So again, I'll just remove this misconception and then I'll sign off. So you are allowed to eat everything which is not mentioned in the forget list. So if phase 1 के forget list में peanuts नहीं है, that means you can eat peanuts. So of course phase 1 forget list doesn't has peanuts, which means that you can eat peanuts. See, it's not possible for me to make a list of all the thousands and lakhs of foods and ingredients that exist in our world, right? So it's not possible for me to write down everything that okay, you can have this in phase 1, you can have this in phase 2. Again, this is something that I've mentioned in the FAQs of chapter 10, and as I said, I'm happy to repeat, but the thing is this, that if there's any ingredient which is not mentioned in the forget list, it means that you're allowed to have it. Now, do you need to favor it? You are not going to go out of your way to favor peanuts in phase 1. That is why you don't see it in the favor list either. But just because it's not there in the forget list, it means that it's perfectly fine to have it. There is no restriction in not having peanuts. Otherwise, I would have mentioned it in the forget list. So this is what it is. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope I have been able to convey the right message as far as your weight loss journey is concerned. I'll see you next week again, same time. Thank you.